What up, y'all? Appreciate you showing up, hanging out, listening to my ass. Like and subscribe. So I'm congested, one of them sneezy days, but it's still all good because we gotta talk about Spider-Man 2. Why we gotta talk about Spider-Man 2? This is why. Right now, as of today is the 17th of October 2023. It releases in 3 days, blah, blah, blah. It is at a 91 on Metacritic, last I checked, which was earlier this morning. And I want to talk about not dichotomy, but the two ends of the spectrum where the critical media or media in general have been talking about it. Now, I have two media sources that have been talking about that are on separate and opposing opinions about this game. One, IGN, Podcast Beyond, the official fanboys, ponies of PlayStation and IGN. Not all of them are ponies, but whatever. They have a little pony sauce and they got a little horseradish in there, you know what I'm saying? The other one, Giant Bomb. Trusted and true people who have no skin in the game. They do what they want to do. They say what they want to say. All right. So I listened to the IGN one first, right? IGN is like, yo, this game is blah, blah, blah. They gave it an 8 out of 10, by the way. Them and their 10-point scale, that's whatever. And so they said, technically speaking, it's a 10 out of 10, basically. And I would agree, maybe a 9 point, whatever. But technically speaking, is a very excellent execution of a game. But where Spider-Man 2 fails and falls short for the IGN people are the side missions, the fetch quests, if you will. Anything that is not the main story is hot trash garbage. This is just kind of fodder. This is like whatever. The open world kind of sucks. The only good part of it is the narrative story and the characters and such. Meaning the open world is like, it doesn't need to be open world, basically. I think Max Scoville said that. Like, if it wasn't the open world, it was just all the single players stuff, it'd have been just as good. I was like, okay, I get it. And they were all pretty much in agreement with that. The side stuff for the fetch quests were annoying and blah, blah. And even I think Max Scoville said this at one point that the combat, or this, I may be conflating it too, but somebody said the combat is, although everything looks great and it's polished and it looks beautiful, and the transitions and all the fast travel, all that stuff's beautiful, the combat gets boring because you've been playing this is the third game. And they've added some stuff, yes, and they've added some geography, they've added some area, but it's not interesting because there's nothing to do in these new areas, nothing of note. And that was, generally speaking, that's what they were talking about on IGN. Now, we flip over to Giant Bomb, right? And it was Jeff Bakalar, Dan Reichert, Jeff Grubb, I forgot who else was there. I think Jan was there, Jan Showa. And they were the exact opposite. They said that the story stuff was boring and kind of like meh, and the writing wasn't good and all that stuff. Technically speaking, everybody would say, and I would say it too, excellent. Nobody's saying it as far as technically, graphics and all that stuff looks good, but the other things, the writing, the scripting, I don't know about the pacing. I can't remember what somebody said about that, but they were the exact opposite. And then they said the side quests were more interesting than the main quest. And they were like, yo, yeah, this was good and that was good, and you have to do this stuff, and then you get a little cutscene at the end, and it's all kind of cool. I was like, oh, okay. So my question is, how do these two separate group of people who are existing in the video game space have opposite opinions of the same game? I mean, they were like diametrically opposite, except, like I said, for the technical achievements of the game. But as far as the nuances, as far as the writing, as far as the storytelling and the characters and all these things, they were opposite. And so I'm thinking to myself, I tend to agree with what Giant Bomb says because they don't have any skin in the game. Like I said before, they are just there and they're telling the truth and they're being honest. They were more critical of Spider-Man 2 than IGN. I don't know if they scored it or if they will score it. I don't think they do scores anymore. But I mean, at 8, sure, I'd probably give it like an 85 or something, you know, just based on what I've seen. And based on the little gameplay that I have played of Insomniac's games, because let's be honest, Insomniac has been making the same game for a decade at least. Okay, Ratchet & Clank, Sunset Overdrive. I would say everything except for Fuse. Fuse is the only outlier, and that game was hot trash garbage. And whatever that VR game that they made that nobody knows the name of and nobody cares. But everything else, the same. And so you're like, oh man, Insomniac's the best studio that Sony has. Like, they've been making the same game for 10 years, well, longer than 10 years, because Ratchet & Clank is 90 something. So 30 years later, they still making the same games. Yeah, they better be good. So I'm like, I don't think they're the best studio. I forgot who put the post up, the poll up. I voted for God of War. I voted for Santa Monica Studio because as far as a game and as far as what Sony is good at, as far as the movie presentation, cinematic presentation, I really clogged it right now, sorry. God of War does the best. God of War does the best. They have better actors. They have better, I think the world is better. I would prefer something more, I think God of War is more interesting because it's based off of, I don't want to say it's based off of real cultural topics and ideas. Spider-Man is just a fictional superhero guy. You know, yeah, sure, it's based in New York, but that's it. It's just location. God of War takes a twist on different gods, different characters, and it brings ideas that could possibly give a little insight or birth more ideas when it comes to religion and these religious figures and such. And that's where it's interesting. Because religion in itself, the stories that it tells, the stories that occupy each different variation of religion is interesting in itself because they're stories that have a lesson, you know, and if you dig deep into it, it is a product of its time, as all writings are. And so, well, anyway, this is not religious cast, but the Spider-Man 2 opinions are interesting in that everyone's not saying the same thing. Now, I understand people, I mean, you know, people different, there's gonna be a spectrum of ideas and opinions. And the game will get a good score, probably still in the 80s, just based off his technical prowess or his technical achievement, if you will. But I think that Insomniac is in a little bit of trouble. Now, I will say one thing that I think Dan Reichert said this, and he said he really liked how Insomniac treated the boss characters, not so much the boss battles, because that was another kind of contentious note where I think it was Jeff Grubb that said it, that the boss battles were boring because it was like 3 stages. Every boss battle is the same. It's 3 stages. You have 1 stage, and then something happens, and there's a second stage, and then you go to another location, and there's the 3rd stage, and then you do it all over again. I was like, yeah, that doesn't sound like good. That doesn't sound like, that sounds like a video game as video game. And there's nothing wrong with that, but when you're supposed to be one of, or if, you know, now calling them the top team at Sony, at PlayStation, you should be innovating in all areas. And that's a tall task to ask any studio. And sometimes you're gonna fall into some comfortable habits, especially when you're turning around the game so quickly. So I think that is one of the problems with what Insomniac is doing by putting out these games so fast, 5 games in 3 games in 5 years, excuse me, is that they don't have the time to innovate on different things. They can polish this up. They can make the transitions, the fast travel transitions, look good, finesse it so that it looks cool and stuff, doing sit-ups on the side of a building and stuff. All of those are cool and all of those are impressive, but technically speaking, it's not like a technical, oh my God, I can't believe they figured out how to do this. No, it's creative. It's like, how can we make this look cool? It's like, oh, we can just zoom out on the map and fly around and then come back to, that's it. And while it's flying around, it's loading and that's it. It's like, oh yeah, we can do that. That's no problem. I mean, I think any game could do that. The problem is, how long does it take to get from point A to point B when that fast travel part happens? They can do it in Starfield if they wanted to. They can go shoo, and zoom out and then zoom back in. Shoo, and say it takes 20 seconds. That's not even how long it takes to actually, but it will take longer. It will take longer because they have to actually load in a animation or something. So say if it takes 5 seconds, maybe it takes 10 seconds, 8 to 10 seconds, right? Would that be cool? Sure. But would it be useful and would it get tired after 100 hours? Yes, it would. And that's why they don't do it in Starfield, because Starfield is a multiple 100-hour game. And that's why I can appreciate the fast travel stuff. Now, of course, you're missing a lot of space battles when you do fast travel. But anyway, tangent. Back to Spider-Man. So I don't really have a problem with Spider-Man 2. The only problem I have with Spider-Man 2, Marvel Spider-Man 2 for play, whatever it's called, is that the canon for Spider-Man is specific to let's say the comics, right? That is the canon. All this other stuff is multiverse or whatever. I don't know what they're kind of positing it as, but like the movies are like, okay, that's an entertaining little take of Spider-Man, and these games are kind of the same thing. You can't be like, yo, remember when that happened in Spider-Man? It's like, that didn't happen in Spider-Man. Oh, that was the game. Well, that doesn't count because that's a stupid, goofy game. If you're gonna count the game, then you gotta count all the games. All the games. Shattered Dimensions, Web of Shadows. Wait, was Web of Shadows the game, or was that was Web of Shadows was a comic run. That's the one that I have where he actually fought Venom. He didn't fight Venom. He faced up. He got by Kraven. That's what Web of Shadows, I believe. Anyway, and the liberties that they're taking with Spider-Man, the game, while it's an excellent game, there's no cohesion between the property. So the thing that I never understood, and Sony is kind of squandering this. Sony literally has the license for the movies. They have a deal with Marvel for the games. Why didn't they connect the dots? If they would have made an actual movie if they would have tied it into the movies more so than they have, I don't think they have it at all, but if they would have done that, it would have been so, like, imagine this. If the Miles Morales for the movies was the Miles Morales in the game. Wouldn't that be dope? It would be a different game. And the Peter Parker, I was listening to Giant Bomb and they said the best Peter Parker in all of Spider-Man is the Miles Morales Peter Parker. The old, grungy, dad bod Spider-Man. And I was like, they're kind of right. They're kind of right. Because he's older. He's, I don't know, maybe 40 something. And, he's eating hamburgers and donuts and he cares, but, he's been beaten down. And it's an interesting character. And I believe it is the canon. Is it the canon? Peter Parker has so many splinters that it's ridiculous. But anyway, I think more integration with, especially the Miles Morales movies, would have made this game or these games way more better, way more interesting. And I would say, to me, what it sounds like or what it feels like to me is that it's too hard. It's too difficult. And now I know people are like, oh, yo, devs are lazy and this and that and the third. And I'm like, lazy, but it is more difficult to have a movie franchise produced. You know, movies and video games are different. Okay, they're different. Movies are easier to make. Period. End of discussion. Don't even look at me. That's why movies come out so quick. You could start a movie at the beginning of the year, and the movie comes out at the end of the year if you got the right amount of people working on the VFX and if they're whatever. You know, a game you got to take 5 years, you know, to get the same results. So, you know, there's that. But taking the kind of goodwill and the goodness of what Spider-Man Miles Morales, Into the Spider-Verse movies are, and not just adapting it as a game, but using it as canon, let's just say that, and using the kind of the anime. I mean, they did that with like one of the skins, but that's not it. And I would say, like I said, I was alluding to, that it's easier to have your own canon within the characters of Spider-Man, the Spider-Verse, or the Spider-Man universe. It's easier to do that because you have freedom to do what you want, other than being constrained to what has come before within those two movies. But I would say that stuff is cool. And yes, it limits them as far as, oh, okay, well, we can't use Doc Ock because it was Octavia, whatever. So she was a female and it's different, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, well, yeah, but still it was kind of cool, you know? And yeah, I don't know. I think they could have found a way, even if they would have said, yo, Lord Miller, could you write a game or something, write up some scenarios, let's go. You know, write some story stuff, let's go. And then we can build a game around it based off of what our game is, or do a collaboration to see how it works. You know, you guys are supposed to be creative at Sony, but you're scared to collaborate with your other part of your studio. I don't know, man. I think they're squandering an opportunity, and I think it could be better. I mean, it's good, but I think it could be better. But anyway, I appreciate y'all hanging out there. I'm sorry for the clogations. I got the sneezies. Totally clogged up now. Hit me up in the comment. Let me know what y'all think about Spider-Man 2. Listen to the Giant Bomb. Listen to Podcast Beyond. Let me know if y'all agree with whoever. And yeah, man, I'll talk to you on the next one. Took the weed.